So today we got some pretty bullish news in regards to Tesla that ultimately paints the path for Tesla to close green for the month of December, which is pretty much in sync with what I said before on this channel. I said that November was going to be a very strong month for Tesla and the overall markets, and we had a very strong November, and I said December is ultimately most likely going to be a very choppy month, but nonetheless still closing up green, and that's exactly what we're seeing so far. Now, before anyone in the comment section goes and says, but Justin, today Tesla stock closed red, how can Tesla close green for the end of the month for December? I want to kind of remind everyone that just because Tesla had one red day, it doesn't necessarily mean that Tesla can't close green for the month of December. And so I want to share some positive news for Tesla stock, but I also want to talk about some of the rumors, right? I want to address some of the rumors that we got for today on why Tesla stock fell down. See, a lot of individuals are saying, well, because Elon Musk had this space on X.com, which is basically this dialect or this communication, this kind of live stream on X.com with, Alex Jones, who is someone who has said, pretty bad things in the past, as well as having Andrew Tate on there. Everyone's like, well, this is the reason Tesla stock is down. Now, I want to argue and say that this is probably not the reason why we saw Tesla stock close red for today. And if we actually take a look at Apple, we see Apple pretty much closed red for today as well. And so this is why I don't believe it was like something really related to Elon Musk. But with that out of the way, I want to go ahead and talk about the exciting news we got for today. So we recently got some breaking news that Ford now is saying that it's cutting its F-150 Lightning production by 50% in 2024. And so this is ultimately very good news for Tesla, because one of the things I've said in the past is that 2024 is going to be a very challenging year, especially the first two quarters in regards to the overall economy. And a lot of these legacy automakers, we've heard them talking about kind of pulling away from the plug on their EV vehicles because they're not profitable on them, right? And so this is going to mean that although Tesla is going to suffer just as well in the first two quarters in the overall economy, their competitors who are not profitable on their EV products, well, they're going to suffer more. And so we're seeing them trying to kind of mitigate the losses by not even focusing on producing these, competing vehicles for Tesla. And so this is ultimately very good for Tesla, because when you're in a down market or a down economy, this is actually the area or the time where you kind of want to start building, right? This is where you actually build a lot of wealth. And so while Tesla is still going to have some challenges, it's going to survive this economic cycle that's going downwards in 2024 and pretty much thrive once the economy bounces back upwards. But with that said, I want to highlight this comment that someone responded to that tweet about the Ford F-150s, in which someone said that the market doesn't want it being the F-150 Lightning, because when consumers go to a dealership, the salesperson, they don't suggest EVs because they make more on commissions on Ford's higher margin vehicles. And so it's no wonder why consumers leave dealerships not being excited about EVs. Now, I wanted to go ahead and highlight that comment because it's actually something that we have to consider. See, unlike a lot of these legacy automakers, Tesla doesn't have like these traditional dealerships, right? Most people just order online and get their Teslas. And so when you go through these traditional dealerships and you want to go ahead and buy an EV, that's very likely, or it is pretty likely, that the salesperson and the dealership is not going to want to kind of promote the EV vehicles, especially when we know that Ford, they're not profitable on their EV vehicles. And so essentially these salespeople are probably paid a higher commission when they sell the internal combustion engine vehicles. And so we're seeing kind of these legacy automakers complain that saying no one wants EVs, but that is not entirely true, because if that was, then why are Tesla's sales and deliveries year over year increasing? Why are surveys each time they're done suggesting that people do want EVs? They just don't want the legacy automakers EVs, especially when you go to the dealership and the salespeople are telling you not to buy it, to just buy the gas guzzling cars. And so that's something that was pretty interesting that I also wanted to highlight. But going back to the original tweet, we have Sawyer Merritt saying that with this 50% production cut, Ford plans on making about 83,000 Lightnings in 2024, and so it's essentially possible that Tesla could produce more Cybertrucks in 2024 than Ford does with its F-150 Lightnings, which is a very interesting turn of events. In which we also have my Uncle Farzard over here saying that they won't even reach 50,000. But I also want to highlight this tweet over here where someone said that the Cybertruck was on the market for 11 days before Ford cut its Lightning production in half. And so that's pretty interesting to kind of consider. The Cybertruck has really only been on the market for less than 30 days, and we already are seeing the competitors scramble and have to cut production on their competing vehicles. Pretty interesting. But we also had Lucid announcing the departure of the chief financial officer out of nowhere, which kind of just shows us that even the competitors in the EV space are basically crumbling as well. I mean, when the CFO leaves a company, we tend to not see the stock perform very well, and it's also an indication of things could be kind of bad in that company. And so we're kind of seeing the cookie crumble with a lot of the competitors in regards to Tesla. But again, I do want to highlight something that's pretty important. And so although I ultimately believe that December is still going to be a slightly bullish month for Tesla, my outlook on 2024 still hasn't changed. I still believe that there's going to be challenges in the economy, especially in the first 2 quarters, and this is going to impact Tesla as well. And so I'm, bullish on Tesla in the long term, but going into 2024, I'm still not that bullish considering that things are going to get very tough economically. And we also had some news today that kind of suggests, or it's kind of like a tell sign of how bad the economy is. See, today we got news that Hasbro, right, the toy making company, is cutting 1,100 jobs after a sluggish toy sale persisting into the holidays. Now, I'm not sure how else to kind of break it to you guys, but when you have toy companies not selling enough toys before the holidays, that's not a good sign of a strong economy. Now, I know some individuals are going to say, oh, well, kids don't even want toys. They play with their iPads and their iPhones and their Xboxes and PlayStations. Yeah, no, I get that. That's true. But how come when 2020 came, right? Of course, we had, the pandemic and, of course, things were bad during March. But once we had people flushed with money, we saw companies like Hasbro do incredibly well. So toys are still in demand when there's a good economy. I know kids don't really play with the toys anymore these days, but that doesn't really change anything. Kids still want toys, right? There's still a strong demand, but when there's not a lot of parents with money to go ahead and buy the toys, well, that's kind of, again, a indicator or indication of a economy that's pretty much dwindling downward. But with that said, guys, I want us to go ahead and hop into my laptop. This way we can take a look at Tesla stock from a technical perspective, as well as kind of just cover the broader markets and also touch on some of the catalyst events that are going to have a huge impact on price action in the next few coming days. And so I definitely want to go ahead and touch on all that. But before we do so, also consider tapping that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And also, just one more favor, consider tapping that like button as well, as it does help out with the channel and it does help push out this video into the algorithm so other individuals can watch it. And with that said, let's go ahead and hop into my laptop. Alrighty, so we are officially taking a look at Tesla in my laptop, and we do indeed see that Tesla did have a red day. In fact, if we go ahead and map it out, it pretty much opened and fell down almost 2% for the day. So definitely a red day, but again, I want to reiterate that I don't believe this is just due to the recent controversy with Elon Musk and Andrew Tate and Alex Jones. I think it was just something that we saw with the overall markets. A lot of stocks did kind of fall down today. But interesting enough, I want to highlight this, right? So if we take a look at SPX, which is the S&P 500 index ETF, a while ago, I highlighted how we have this area, right? If we zoom out, it's been a huge area of resistance, and I said we wanted to pay attention to it. We got rejected. If we actually zoom out, I believe I even mapped it out all the times we got rejected. Back in March 29th of 22, it was an area where we got rejected. Back in July 27th, the last time we had a very bullish month, we got rejected. And then, of course, we also had November pretty much pushing upwards. And then if we zoom in, we got rejected on December 1st. But I said, it looks like this is going to still provide an area of resistance. But once we break above it, it's kind of breaking out of that trend. And that's pretty bullish for the overall markets. And so we actually saw it break out of that trend today. and hold upwards. And so that kind of builds more confidence for me and the idea of Tesla closing for the month of December upwards and being kind of a green month for Tesla. I said it's still going to be, a choppy month. And if we go ahead and look at it, right, December has definitely, I believe, let's see, December started around over here, definitely a bit of a choppy month, but we are still ultimately higher than where we were from the beginning of December. And I expect it to still push up a little bit further. So again, we have the overall markets breaking out of a trend. So that's bullish. As far as catalyst events go, one of the things I've been saying is that, hey, tomorrow, December 12th at 8:30 a.m., we have the consumer price index and the core CPI, of course, core consumer price index and year over year, etc. And this is just a report which is a gauge on inflation. And the idea is that it's most likely going to come in with consensus that Wall Street has put in place already about inflation pretty much trickling downwards, although it's not going to be a rapid pace downwards. The consensus is that inflation is still going to come down. And even if it deviates from it just a sludge or a slight bit, right? I don't expect it to be something that's going to cause the markets to fall downwards. And in fact, I believe that this could be a catalyst that propels the markets to continue pushing upwards. And then following along after that, we also have Wednesday with the PPI, or the producer price index, and core PPI, which I always say is like a leading indicator for inflation, because oftentimes producers, they push the prices over to consumers. And so we want to see what the producers are paying. But then ultimately at 2 p.m. is the big day. We get the update on monetary policy as the FOMC makes their decision. Again, my stance is that they're going to pause for the entirety of 2023. We've gotten every single FOMC interest rate decision correct. I mean, even down to the basis points. I mean, there was times where I said, hey, I think they're going to hike up 25 basis points, and they did 25. I mean, we pretty much nailed it on the head. Now, just because I called out the predictions for what the FOMC has done correct for the entire year doesn't mean that I'm going to get it right this time. I just believe that most likely they will pause, and that's also going to be pretty bullish, I believe. And then afterwards, 30 minutes later, of course, we have Fed Chairman Jerome Powell delivering his press conference, and we're going to want to parse through the verbiage that he actually mentions, as that's something that we always want to look out to, what is actually said. And then following along, we also have the initial jobless claims. And so definitely a very heavy week in terms of data that's going to swing the markets. But I ultimately believe it's going to be a swing upwards. I don't think we're going to get too many surprises. Of course, the market doesn't like uncertainty. And so I think this is actually good. And this is kind of leading to, again, the idea that Tesla is going to have a month of December closing green. However, again, I just want to reiterate that my view on Tesla going forward still doesn't change. I still believe that, going into 2024, there are going to be some challenges. And so that's something that we want to watch out for. Again, over here around the price area that we're at, there's still a lot of volume relative to price. And so that means that there's a lot of consolidation here. And that's exactly what we're seeing, up, down, up, down, up, down. And so I expect maybe a little bit of a push up and then ultimately getting rejected. And I don't expect Tesla for the month of December or even going into January to break out of this descending trend line, which has been very prominent. If we kind of zoom back, Tesla has gotten rejected on this this descending trend line for quite some time. I mean, even dating back to 2021, so 2 whole years. And I don't expect it to break out of that area just yet. Perhaps in the second the second half of 2024, so the third and fourth quarter, we could possibly see that. But I am expecting some pain for Tesla. Now, funny enough, I was looking at my channel on YouTube, and I noticed that for the months of January and also for the month of July, that's when I got the most views here on YouTube. And that's actually the same amount or the same exact time where Tesla rallied up a tremendous amount. And so my prediction is I'm probably not going to be a popular guy going into the next few months, as I do believe Tesla is going to pretty much fall downwards. Oftentimes people ask, where do I see Tesla going downwards? It's still the same area around that possible 180 level, as this area is again a high area of price relative to, or volume relative to price, so that kind of provides a little bit of a floor. But of course, I don't have a crystal ball. We'll go ahead and have to watch out what ends up taking place. For those of you guys that don't know, I am a long-term bull for Tesla. I do have exposure to Tesla in my long-term portfolio, and in my long-term portfolio, there's nothing that I'm doing, nothing special. Perhaps I may sell some calls just to collect some premium and collect some money, but ultimately, I just see 2024 as a buying opportunity to add into my long-term portfolio, not selling Tesla in any manner whatsoever in my long-term portfolio. But I do expect in my short-term trading account, right, which is my separate account where I do trade Tesla, there are going to be some opportunities for shorting. But again, it's really up to you and what you end up doing and what you see value in. Of course, I'm still bullish on Tesla long term, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you guys have to be, right? You always have to do whatever you see value in. And of course, you have to also identify, which is something I think a lot of individuals mess up on, identify what your goal is. For example, I have one portfolio where I'm long-term bullish and I don't touch it. And then I have another trading account, which obviously I trade Tesla. And I think a lot of individuals, and I see it often, that watch my videos or to consume my content, I have a feeling that they don't know what they're doing with Tesla. You have some individuals that say they're invested for the long term, but then they're trading the fluctuations in price. And I'm just like over here sometimes like, bro, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Figure out, what are you doing? Are you investing for the long term, or are you trying to trade in the short term? If you're investing for the long term, then you don't have to really worry about these small day-to-day price action moves. In fact, you should just really be concerned with the macros, what's going on in the economy, and also fundamentally what's going on with Tesla. You shouldn't be mindful of, just the daily news that moves Tesla. But of course, if you're trading Tesla, that's completely different. So I just want you guys, if you're watching this video and if you made it this far, kind of ask yourself, what is your goal? And it's fine to do both, right? Again, I have a trading account and a long-term portfolio, so I try to separate it, or not try, but I separate it so I know exactly what I'm doing with each portfolio. But hopefully you guys understand what you're doing as well. And with that said, there's no need to make this video any much more longer. But before you guys go, consider watching this next video right over here, talking about the bears for Tesla in 2024. With that said, I'll see you guys on that next video. Take care, guys.